Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe right now, right here to our YouTube channel, Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I'd be able to send videos like this to your inbox as soon as tomorrow morning. And if you like this watch, you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, and sell luxury and vintage watches 24 hours a day and globally on thewatchbox.com, where you get a good look at this watch and you realize that its size, fit, finish, and materials are modern, but its style is historically inspired. A combination of crowdsourced history and in-house watchmaking, this was one of the most discussed timepieces of 2017. After an Autavia sweepstakes involving over 50,000 votes, the ultimate design basis for this one was the historic Heuer Autavia 2446 Mark III dial. That said, this is a modern timepiece in every respect, with a nod toward history and a style that has, as a result, stood the test of time already. This one will age well. 42.7 millimeters across the round of the case. You can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, which is flat more than round. It wears like a modern watch. Lug to lug, it's big but not overpowering. At 50.4 millimeters, I consider a small male wrist, which I define as 14 to about 16.5 centimeters circumference, best suited to a lug to lug dimension of a watch that is 50 millimeters or fewer. So at 50.4, this watch does make the cut. You'll also note that it's fairly thick. There's an outboard cantilever and a little bit of a hook to the 12-hour format bezel, so it wears all of its 15.8 millimeters thick. The timepiece is substantial. You know you're wearing something truly special. It doesn't feel like an entry-level watch, despite the accessible price point. There's a reassuring heft to everything about this Tag Heuer, and make no mistake, it is a Tag Heuer, though you'll only see Heuer written on the movement alongside the famed Technique d'Avant-Garde TAG. Now, how Heuer is this watch? Well, it has a Heuer crown, it has a Heuer dial, it notes the Heuer O2 movement at 6 o'clock. It has a vintage-inspired Heuer buckle, and the bracelet attached to it is very much like the beads of rice unit that would have been fitted to a 1970s equivalent. All of high polish, it actually wears it well. It doesn't seem garish or extroverted or excessive. You'll also note that because this watch is built to serve as a price point, some money was saved using pin sleeves for sizing of the bracelet. It is a tough system, but at the same time, I'd like to see screws. Nevertheless, the watch makes up a lot of lost ground with the quality of its caliber, and you'll note that the bracelet is superbly designed with big gaps between links to avoid pinching skin, pulling hair, or trapping heat, moisture, sweat, or grit on the wrist. And the clasp is substantial. Single fold, you'll note that it does use a twin trigger system, so it can't accidentally pop open. I'm heartened by the fact that twin triggers were used here. I can deal with the strap tool micrometric adjustment systems. I can deal with the pin sleeves. If this were a clamshell, it would have ruined the whole thing for me, and I love the fact that it's trigger release for absolute security. Nice integration of bracelet and lug profile. A vintage watch with perhaps more delicate proportions might have felt a little bit more natural on a strap because this one's more substantial. The integrated end link and the large manufacturer bracelet seem like a good pairing. You'll also note that the case band is all of high polish, though there is a little bit of sculpting about the lugs. They're not quite as strident and strong as you'll find on a Carrera. They're a little bit more elegant, and they're handsomely integrated into the case band. The bezel itself has a wonderfully grippy knurling on its outer circumference, so you can easily move it back and forth. It is an anodized aluminum insert. It's not a dive bezel, though the watch is 100 meters water resistant. Let's get closer here, get this in focus, give ourselves some more light. Now you can use the bezel for timing purposes, and it is a champ in that capacity. But I will remind you that being bidirectional rotating, it's not suitable for professional diving. The registers were actually changed a bit from the prototype phase, as the originals were silver. These are actual white on black, so the contrast is very high. They also have a handsome quality that a more reserved silver might not communicate as forcefully. There's something absolutely delightful about the invert Panda with true white registers on a black base. Now there is a little bit of a nod to modern voguish tropes, as there is a simulated patina to the luminescence. Fortunately, it's used sparingly, and rather than reading as a cloying fake tritium, it actually just comes across as a charming color. Of course, the dial, this is an Autavia. Automotive and aviation, both, as the original from the early 60s, was aimed at a broad range of professionals and sportsmen. The Watch does feature easy legibility and all of the indices are applied. So again, this is why it's easier for me to accept the pin sleeve bracelet, because no expense was spared on the clasp, the dial, or the movement, and those are important to me. You'll also note that it starts with alacrity, but not a jump, as this is a vertical clutch system. If you don't like to read your seconds on a small subdial, the vertical clutch lets you just run the chronograph, so it starts smoothly thanks to vertical clutch with no jump, but then you can just leave the chronograph running if you prefer to read seconds with minutes and hours at center. I also have to say that the column wheel action of this Heuer O2, you can see it's a red crenellated tower. This is one of the best column wheel actions I've ever experienced. I would actually say that the crisp report, the click, is more pronounced and even more satisfying than the Longa datograph. Yes, I'm willing to court that controversy. I know of which I speak. I've held them both in my hands. Now, you'll also note that the system features a date. If you're going to put a date on this dial, put it at 6 o'clock, hide it inside a register. You pull the crown out, there is a hacking seconds or stop seconds function, and there is a quick set as well for rapidly cycling the date. Let's check the case back. Now, I promised you one TAG signature on this watch, and I'm going to deliver that if I can get it in focus. There we are. There is one Tag Heuer signature on this watch, and you can see it on the Heuer O2. This is the caliber that was the 1969 and then the CH80. 75-hour power reserve, 4 Hz or 28,800 vibration per hour beat rate. There's a lot to love here, and it's both good looking and technically proficient. This is impressive manufacturer watchmaking from Tag Heuer, and they constructed an entire factory expressly to assemble this movement. It's industrially crafted and industrially finished, but that doesn't mean it isn't sophisticated or handsome. It is both of those things. Okay, so where does that leave us? It leaves us with a modern watch that has a few tasteful and judiciously chosen vintage references. Anything but a retro watch. This is a modern sportster to compete with the best from Breitling and Omega. A handsome, good-looking, well-proportioned, impressively engineered, modern Heuer Autavia. You have to wonder at this point, given the success of the Heuer branding and the products thusly labeled, is it time to simply change the name back to Heuer? Guys, tell me in the comments below. Has the time come? This watch makes a powerful case. And we're back with the 2017 Heuer Autavia Heuer O2. You can see that the polish of the interior bezel creates a cool nocturnal reflection effect, and though you can't see the chronograph functions, it's easy enough to tell the time. See this one by the light of day with full boxes, papers, and accessories on our website.